self-defense? Carol Anderson talks about her perspective on the meaning of self-defense in America versus the Black community in her essay called Self-Defense, written in the 1916 Project.
Let's talk about it.
Before we get into the essay, let's talk about our author, Carol Anderson. Anderson is a professor of African American Studies at Howard Chandler University. So I think it's safe to say she knows what she's talking about. Her research greatly focuses on public policy regarding race, which is what this essay is about. Let's talk about it.
What changes would you propose for the Second Amendment?
What I would propose actually is that we remove the Second Amendment from its hallowed ground, because right now it has this kind of reverence in American society. I've got my Second Amendment rights. And everybody thinks they know what that is. But if we treat the Second Amendment the way we treated the Three-Fifths Clause, it loses its veneration. And that means then that we're able to have a real conversation about what real security looks like, what real safety looks like, what the access to real rights truly look like.
This essay is all about a U.S. citizen's right to defend themselves and how that doesn't seem to apply to Black people.
With the story of a Black man named Jesse Murray. In 2017, Murray was attacked outside of a bar in Georgia by a group of white men. During the attack, Murray, who is a legal firearm owner, pulled his weapon, and one of the white men ended up being shot. Although Georgia has a stand your ground law where a citizen is legally allowed by law to use lethal force if they perceive necessary, Murray was charged with murder. The police stated that none of the men who attacked Murray were acting in a way where Murray could reasonably believe deadly force was needed or his life was in danger. Now, the essay also talks about how, conversely, in 2012, a Hispanic man named George Zimmerman called the police and reported a suspicious figure walking around his neighborhood.
This guy looks like he's up to no good, or he's on drugs or something. It's raining and he's just walking around looking about.
Okay, and this guy, is he white, black, or Hispanic?
He looks black.
Did you see what he was wearing?
Yeah, a dark hoodie, like a gray hoodie, and he wore jeans or sweatpants and white tennis shoes.
That suspicious figure was 17-year-old Trayvon Martin. 7 minutes after the police called, Trayvon Martin was dead and George Zimmerman was injured. Zimmerman was not charged, courts claiming that there was no evidence refuting Zimmerman's claim to self-defense. These two incidents are pretty different, but they do, they show you how normalized the murder of Black people and Black children, specifically Black young boys, are compared to how serious or how consequential killing a white man would be in two separate situations, one seemingly more severe than the other. Anderson also addresses the ratification of the Second Amendment in 1791, stating that it was codified for white citizens the right to bear arms and protect themselves. But protect themselves from who? States have their own militias at this point, so what does the average citizen need to carry a firearm for? Well, slave control. During this time period, there was such a mass hysteria in slave states that the slaves were going to band together and revolt against their slavers and the government, and all in all, just take over. There were so many more slaves on a plantation than there were white people. There were, hundreds of slaves and one slaver plus their families. So, in theory, yes, a slave could easily revolt against their slavery and take over the household. So, especially with the right after the Civil War, the southern states are joining the Union, they're ratifying the Constitution, they're, accepting the Constitution as their state law as well. The Union was divided on slavery, so northern states were anti-slavery. So where the southern states were concerned was that the slaves would revolt against the slave state governments, and the Union wouldn't help them, and there would be no end in that. They were going to lose slavery that way. So that's where the Second Amendment came in, and now that gave slavers the right to own firearms and their families to own firearms, to have more control of their household, of their plantation.